everyone, Siege back here, and welcome back to one of our very first tutorials for Frostpunk Beyond the Ice. And today we are going to be talking about brass. And before we move on, we are going to be talking about the following today. First, what is brass? Second, where can I get it? Third, where should I spend it first? And fourth, where should I spend it next? Okay, so first question for today is what is brass? So, as defined in game, it is a common currency used to purchase various items. Personally, I would define it as a premium resource that can be used to purchase special buildings, unlock queues, purchase items, including raw resources that can speed up progress and efficiency in game. Second question, where can I get it? So there are several areas where you can get brass, and we will be identifying most, if not all of them, in today's video. First of which is going to be the daily login. Approximately, you'll be receiving around 18 brass per month. And as a visual, here is this month's 30-day login bonus. So you can see we receive 1 on the 5th day, another 2 brass on the 30th day, and on the side over here on the right, after 15 days, 5 brass, and after 30 days, 10 brass, for a total of 18 brass per month. Have not yet encountered a different month where that was different, but that's a ballpark figure of where you're getting brass in terms of daily login. Next, we have rewards and events. Unfortunately, this is not very regular as events are random in nature from the developers, but you usually receive approximately 1 to 2 every now and then from login rewards, and from events 1 to 2 as well. So keep playing the game and you should have a hefty amount of brass from rewards and events. Third, achievements. Most of the time, you would receive 1 brass per achievement. And here is an example of brass from achievements. These are hard worker achievements wherein you're required to gather resources manually using the manual gather button. And once you hit these 3 milestones, that's 3 extra brass for you. So this is just some of the achievements in game, and there are a lot more achievements that you can get these random brass rewards from. So keep playing the game and you should be getting enough brass to use for your needs. Next, the monthly premium pass, which does cost money to unlock, but you will get approximately 300 brass out of it. However, you are also receiving extra goodies from these premium pass. So that means you're getting more than 300 brass of value. As for example, flares here are worth 50. Sorry, flares are worth 3 brass. So getting 25, that's 75 worth of brass value. A compass is given for free after a certain level. So that's 50 brass worth. Here's the 300 brass for membership upon purchase. You also get heat credentials. These cost 3 brass per use. You could only use 1 per day. So having 10 of these in total nets you 30 brass. These other boxes, good value. You also get some shilling. For membership, you got 1,200. You get 2 Steam cores. I do believe this is somehow constant. You get this 2 Steam cores at level 30 of the premium pass, and that's already a value of around 400 per core, so that's 800 brass in total. Steam core components are also here. You get a total of 15. These cost 40 brass each, so that's a total of 600 brass. So a lot of value here. So it's a good purchase to grab this premium pass, even if only once, that if your budget allows for it. And you would be able to unlock a lot of items, which we will be discussing further down the video. Now, the last way of getting brass is, of course, by bulk buying using money. The rates in game range from 32 brass to 36 brass per dollar spent. And here is the breakdown. Next, where should I spend it first? You should be using these brass because they're in particular premium and hard to get in very specific areas that would give you a lot of value, efficiency, and progress in game. Now, the first one I have here is expanding each production queue to 3 slots. You start off with 2 slots, and since you have 2 production buildings, you'll be needing to spend 5 brass each for a total of 10 brass. I'll be discussing later why this is one of my recommendations because this boosts your efficiency in completing requests from your people. So expand that from 2 to 3. Next is going to be the Expedition Supply Factory. This building is a special building that can only be acquired if you do spend brass. Now, it costs 5 brass plus some other materials to create. And some would argue actually that this is not worth the take, but in my honest opinion, I think this is a good enough trade because it's cheap in terms of brass. It's only 5 and it eventually pays itself off in your expeditions. As mentioned in the name of the building, it's an expedition supply factory. You will be able to create your own bandages, which heal 50 health points approximately every use, as well as dynamites. So, bandages and dynamites on demand, which means that based on the argument of other people, you could just wait in on the trade base to stockpile them. It would take you some time to stockpile enough to do the expedition, and I think it's a fair enough trade to trade 5 brass to set it up your own. Every expedition you complete, you get 1 sure brass income. So after 5 expeditions or 5 complete expeditions, this pays itself off. So having the luxury of doing your expeditions at your own time and without having to sit at the trade base and wait every minute and buy all of the dynamites that are offered, including bandages, especially if it's still in the early game, it would be easier for you to maintain a steady playthrough of your expeditions. Sometimes as well, people sell like dynamites at 30 shillings, which is another in-game currency we're going to be talking about in another video. It would eat up on your potential income from your expeditions if you're always spending dynamites, shillings on dynamite. So time and shillings are going to be wasted for you. So that's my argument in terms of getting an expedition supply factory. It's cheap and you'll be able to use its products fairly often. Next, resource bases. So resource bases in the game are buildings that can create any type of resource. Basically, you have 4 different types of resource that you can create in this game, namely food, which are primarily made by greenhouses, coal, which are primarily made by coal mines, wood, primarily built by lumber yards, and one special resource which is iron produced by your iron mine. Getting a resource base allows you to create any of those 4 resources on demand and at an increased efficiency from the normal building. So the way resource bases work is that they produce resources or they act as the same building of the equivalent type. So for example, you have one level 5 coal mine. If you have a level 5 resource base, that resource base would produce more resources than a level 5 coal mine. So it is tantamount to a level 6 coal mine in that scenario. So having more of these, you can build a maximum of 9. However, each build does increase its cost. It starts off at 30 brass. I think the second one is 35 brass. And I'm not really sure about the third until the ninth one. On my alternate base, I only have one resource base, so I'm sure the 35 cost on the second one is a true statement. However, I'll probably add additional details on probably an update video once I do run into the rest of the resource bases. The next thing that we'll be using our brass is into super factories. So super factories is a building that is a combination of a refinery, which creates a different set of items, and a synthesis factory, which also creates a different set of items. So the super factory is a combined refinery and synthesis factory. At the same time, it starts off at level 2. Unfortunately, this super factory is not upgradable, so it stays at level 2 for the rest of its existence inside your city. Now, one argument I'd like to make with super factories is if you're deciding whether to invest on a resource base or a super factory, you're most probably better off spending your current brass with resource bases than super factories. Why is that? You would say that the super factory is a level 2 building, and as you mentioned, it's already combined. However, you do get synthesis factories in game. At my current level, on my main base, I have 3 synthesis factories, and unfortunately, I am not using 2 of them. So, this means I am losing efficiency on my synthesis factories, and they're not being of any use to me. So, I think the argument I would make for creating super factories is once you're fully utilizing your synthesis factories, at that point, it is a good idea to get one super factory. So this is a matter of utilizing what resources you can, which are free or does not cost brass, and only spending brass when you need it. So again, to summarize that point, grab a super factory once you're fully utilizing all of your synthesis factories. And before then, just spend them on your resource bases. Okay? Okay. Point well made. Let's move on. By the way, sorry about that. You can create a maximum of 15 super factories, which cost 50 brass each for a total of 750 brass to create all 15 of them. At the same time, you need to be able to support the wood or the lumber requirement of creating these super factories. That means you need to have at least 2 to 3 steam hubs to be able to support building a super factory, because as it stands, one super factory requires 2,500 lumber to set up. And if you have not been upgrading your wood storage, you'll probably be sitting at a casual 800. So you need at least 2 to reach the 2,500 cap, which allows you to build the first one if my memory serves me correctly. And for the second super factory onwards, it would require 3,500 lumber each. So you need to have at least 3 fully stocked up steam hubs containing lumber to be able to build one super factory. So keep that in mind when you're starting to create your super factories. Okay, now let's move on. So I've spent my brass on those recommended buildings. What should I consider next in this game? Now, that question is a bit hard to answer because it entirely would depend upon your preference of progression inside the game. So you could spend it on first expanding queues of production of the production workshop. You could push it up to at least 6 or 7 to increase the efficiency of how fast you complete requests from your people. Increasing the efficiency there allows you to cycle through the requests faster, or you can just refuse them if you don't like the contents of the request. But it allows you to complete requests faster, and this would play a big part if you are also playing at a limited number of time within this game. So if you're able to complete a request or one request in one round, meaning you're able to queue up all of the required items inside the building and have to wait, let's say, approximately 2 minutes. If you have to wait for that queue to finish and had to put up one extra item on the next set, then that doubles the amount of time you need to complete one request. Hence the initial recommendation of increasing the production queue to 3 slots, because having 3 slots on each building will allow you to complete the biggest request in 2 rounds. Biggest request containing 12 separate items. So if you have 6 queues in total, 3 from the first building, second from the second building, you have a total of 6. You can do it in 2 rounds. So there are some requests that are a bit different. Some require 5 items, some have 7. So at that point, that's where this argument comes in. You could increase the queue more, and that increases your efficiency. But again, that depends on how you want to play the game. Next point is expanding the other queue of the Craftwork Factory. This is the building that creates your luxury items or your special items that are sometimes needed in requests of the people. So having the capability of having one queue for each item makes it so that you can complete requests before they even given to you. So once you do see them and you have them in hand, then you're able to complete them and then queue up another. Another purpose you can do with expanded queues, by the way, in the game is for them to act as temporary storage. So if you're starting off in the game, you would have a very limited amount of space in your warehouse, and you should make sure that you're utilizing each slot in that warehouse as efficiently as possible, and not having to place your luxury items inside the warehouse, but just since sitting inside the queue technically increases your warehouse size by how many slots the Craftwork Factory has. So that's another technique in managing your warehouse. I'll probably be creating a separate video discussing warehouse efficiency and space, but for now, that's what I have to share for you. Next thing you can spend your brass is expanding the other queues of the other buildings. Usually it only costs around 5 brass to expand the first slot on each building. So being able to expand them a little more allows you to be more efficient in how you play. So again, this is purely player preference. So do as you want with the brass that you have. Now, discussing the queue system in a little more detail, let me just dive into that real quick. I have a table here that shows on the top row the total items per request, and on the left side showing the number of queues you have. And I've highlighted the queues that are in particular very important to consider here. So you start off with 4, meaning at 5 items per request, you require 2 sets to complete them. Putting them at 6 allows you to complete 6 item requests in 1 round. And as mentioned before, one individual request can be as big as 12 items, meaning 3 per each variety. Now, going at 7 is another good line because upon my testing in game, approximately when you see all three different requests active in your city, the amount of items in all of those requests average at around 14 total items per request. So having 14 queues or 7 on each building allows you to clear the whole request in one go, meaning you're after you queue up everything, you're just waiting for them to be completed, and you can complete the next set pretty substantially faster. Now you can also go 12 queues, but that's having 12 different slots allows you to complete one whole set, and having 14 slots allows you to complete one whole request straight out. So going by 6 is a very good amount, meaning only have to expand one queue one time each. But going to 12, meaning you have to expand each queue 3 times. Or 4 if you're going for the 14. So if you're only aiming to complete one specific request out of the 3, I would suggest going by 6, meaning 3 and 3. If you're aiming to complete all of the requests every single time, I would suggest pushing over until 12 or 14 queues, meaning respectively 6 or 7 on each building. But again, if you have extra brass, why not push until 20? But I think there are other ways to better spend your brass than expanding queue up to 20. I myself on my main account have 6 slots in each building, and so far I've been able to complete all of the requests without any problem. Out of the 3 requests, usually one of them is bad and 2 of them are serviceable. So you could cancel one. That means you only need to complete approximately 10 items per request, which fits into the 12 queue I already have. But do as you want with how you're playing the game. Now, the next items I would recommend spending your brass on is heat credentials. Heat credentials are where you gain or are used to get another set of requests from the heat station. The heat station generates heat stamps, or what are they called? Heat coins. Yeah, they're heat coins. So allows you to have another set of heat coins, which technically doubles your efficiency every single day. One heat credential costs 3 brass to purchase. So that means you're getting double the efficiency every single day. I'll be creating a separate video in terms of the usage of heat coins, because that's a whole other beast in itself. So for now, if you're asking, think about where to spend your brass. One would be in heat coins or heat credentials to open up more heat coins. The next thing we have is flares. However, this argument would be fairly subjective. If you have a lot of brass to spend, unlocking all of the experts right on the get-go would help you in efficiency inside the game. However, as people have said, not all of the experts are working as intended. So this may not be a very good investment on your flares, on your brass, but it's something to consider. One flare costs 3 brass, so that's a total of 30 brass per day, since you can get a maximum of 10 every day. Next, compass. The compass is an item used for expeditions in order to unlock one extra map. Now, if you've been doing expeditions, you know there are a lot of items to be had inside each expedition. A lot of boxes, a lot of screws, a lot of resources and all. So, I think it's a fair argument that one compass is a good investment if you have the spare brass to spend in order for you to progress a little bit faster in game. One thing I don't think I have yet here in this video is probably expanding your expedition storage. At some point, you would be required to spend brass to use the backpacks in expanding your expedition. I don't think it's a good investment to spend brass and unlocking extra slots. But again, I want to include that in this video just so you know there's something about expanding bags that you could consider. Now, the last few items that I would like to talk about are some buildings that you should consider as well in spending brass on. One of which is the medicine factory. The medicine factory allows you to build your own internal and external medicines, which help in shilling generation, but that because that allows you to heal your people or have ready medicine at all times when some people on your city get sick. So having this on demand is also another thing you could consider. But again, you could just buy items from the trade shop and solve that problem that way. But if you want efficiency and more comfort, then might as well get your own medicine factory. The next is a feed processing factory. This one I don't think is really necessary for the sole reason that your heat coins are better spent on your Steam course, which again I'll be discussing in a separate video. So after you complete the initial quests about feeding your animals, I would suggest just buying the feed straight from the trade shop. Maybe send a chat over and ask for people to post feed that you need. And after that, don't even bother with feed processing. Some of the higher level players have this building on hand, and you could sell the feed over and generate extra shillings that way. But for usage, I don't suggest unlocking this as one of your first brass spends. Lastly, I would talk about decorations. Frostpunk Beyond the Ice is another mobile game, and I think one of the factors that is considered here is how well you build your base. Unfortunately, the decorations are locked behind a brass. You could unlock them without spending brass, but that would hamper your Steam Core progression. So I would suggest not spending them there unless you have a lot of extra brass to spend. So overall, that's everything I want to talk about in this video with regards to brass. Leave a comment down below if I've missed anything or you have different opinions on what I've mentioned in the video. And probably the next video we'll be having in the channel or for Frostpunk Beyond the Ice, I'm looking into talking about Steam Course because I think that's one of the more important items that everyone needs to know about. So stay tuned on our next video about Steam Course.